Okay, we're going to show you a moment that if you're a fan, you cannot see too many times. Couple of different unique angles on that George Springer home run. You may not have seen these yet, even if you were watching the game. That's the view from on-field along the third base line. No home run trot for Springer. He is high-stepping it there in celebration as he rounds the bases and heads for home. And this is what his game-winning hit looks like from the photographer's box along the first base line. So there it is there. It gives us a wider angle and gives us some surround sound from the roar of 45,000 people. Blake Murphy. Oh, yeah, let's linger on that. Blake Murphy was there to hear it for himself. Sportsnet Blue Jays analyst and also the host of Jays Talk Plus. He is in Toronto. I had to bring in a defibrillator in my house practically last night, Blake. It was so exciting. Have you recovered and dried out from the party room?
Yeah, the dried out part is okay. I kind of hung to the back so I didn't get too soaked with the beer and champagne. But they do a good job trying to make sure every one of us gets wet and doused in some way or another. That was a blast. I barely slept. I'm still buzzing. I can't wait to do the show today and happy to be on with you.
Well, I'm happy to have you, too. It's great to have you back. We just showed a couple of interesting angles to all of this, but we're going to show some more viz as well. Springer stepping up to the plate. I don't know. It just seemed that, they'd made some moves to get runners on base, get them in position, and then he was walking up. It just seemed that everything was aligning. Take me through the moment as you experienced it, Blake.
It's incredible. You're hoping at that point in the game to chip away and build a little bit of something. And I was sitting there and talking to a couple of people in the press box. And, Dan Wilson, the manager for the Mariners, managed a pretty good series. And then Edward Pizarro's coming in, and he's been really good, but he's faced Springer a lot of times in this series. So I'm kind of thinking, okay, well, Springer's seen a lot of this guy. They've been pitching him the same way all game. And then you kind of you only have like a quick half second or so. But how cool would it be if George Springer was the guy who did this, given that, his bounce back this year has been one of the best stories of the team, that he's playing hurt after taking 95 off the kneecap the other day. This is a guy who's won a World Series MVP. So, if anyone was going to do it, Vlad was 2 batters away. So I was kind of looking ahead to that as well. But the Springer moment would have been really cool. And there you go. The third most playoff home runs of all time for George Springer. Hard to get more clutch than that. And to do a home run like that with Jose Bautista in the building is pretty special.
It was incredible. MLB putting out some of their stats on social media. He hit the first go-ahead home run, trailing by multiple runs in the 7th inning or later in Game 7 history. Don't you love baseball stats? That's a very specific stat, but that still speaks to how fantastic that was.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Blue Jays have had some big ones. The Edwin one punches them through the wild card. The Jose Bautista one punches them through the ALDS. Now this one punches them through the ALCS. Of course. Joe Carter to walk it all off. So now we've got one for each round of the playoffs.
And as you said, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was 2 away when that happened. ALCS MVP. He is beloved, and you just saw the emotion in him after the game as he talked about 4 more. Just what do you think is the the driving force there?
Yeah, it's so cool. He did. So they do their big celebration and they're doing all the media on field and things like that. And then only John Schneider and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. also do a podium session in the little press conference room. And Vlad went up there and he had his ALCS MVP award and his daughter was with him. And he talked a lot, about his faith, about his family, and really, and look, every athlete is going to say this, but I do think Vlad means it when he talks about being born here and wanting to commit to the city and the fan base and the country when he signed that big 14-year contract, reflecting a lot on, his dad telling him, growing up in baseball, telling him about what that pressure is like and what that privilege is like to kind of, represent a city and a team and a country like that. It's pretty cool. And, I don't know. Look, if it were as simple as you're representing a country, you're fired up, everyone goes and hits 442 for 2 rounds of the playoffs, then everyone would do it. This is a special player who has found kind of his peak groove here at the absolute best time.
we were looking at the video with his daughter there, and you hit on something that I think is important to point out. This is not a team that's playing for a city. They're playing for the country, and they all seem acutely aware of that. Blake, does it add to the dynamic or affect it in any particular way?
I think a little bit. I think, certainly the crowds in Toronto, the 44,000 there was loud. It was shaking after that Springer home run. It was one of those days. I doubt it was physically shaking, but it felt like it was shaking. And apologies to the Mariners fans in BC. They've been giving it to me all series. I know that they're not they're like, hey, we're not part of Canada's team. We're Seattle Mariners fans. Hope you get on board for the Jays against the Dodgers. But it's really cool. You hear guys even mention like they're aware of the TV ratings. They're aware that 5, 6, probably maybe even 10 million by the time this World Series rolls around are watching them in this country. So, again, like the Dodgers get 50,000 out to their games too. I don't know if it's an advantage necessarily in the World Series, but it's something that a lot of those guys seem to hold pretty close and be, really aware and grateful of.
Boy, watching last night, the crowd seemed so nervous and kind of out of it more than they were in Game 6. But they really got going after Game 7 and then through to the end. Bo Bichette, watching all of this, but saying to a number of reporters afterward, I'll be ready. What do you think?
Well, I think I saw him, what's today? Tuesday. I think Sunday I saw him have a pretty darn good batting practice before the game. Now, he still hasn't run the bases much, and that's kind of the big hurdle. You could play him at DH and ask George Springer to play some outfield if his knee's okay. But regardless of if you can field, you got to be able to run the bases. You can't poke one into the gap and slowly jog to first. So I'm sure we'll get an update in these next couple of days. But I think that Bo Bichette would love to be out there. I think Vladimir Guerrero Jr. would like to be on this journey with Bo Bichette, who he's been on this journey for almost a decade now. Those are pretty cool moments if a guy can come back at the right time and find a way to contribute toward the finish line here.
I was going to ask you to do a sneak preview of the World Series, but we'll have days to talk about that. Can we talk one more question before I have to let you go this time? Someone else who's been on a very long journey with this club is John Schneider, more than 20 years now, and he's been beloved and reviled, and now he's, I don't know, but very beloved at the moment. But his whole coaching team. So we have Schneider, but we also have done pictures of all of them. Pete Walker, we always see right beside the pinching coach. David Popkins, the new hitting coach. Don Mattingly, Blake making his first trip to the World Series after 36 years in baseball, incredibly. Just to give us some insight from your perspective on this coaching staff, what they've been able to accomplish, just how the kind of baseball they play, they call it Blue Jays baseball. It's so much fun to watch, but what they've crafted this year.
Yeah, and it's taken a long time to get there. This is a front office and a coaching staff that's been trying to tweak this mix for a couple of years. And at one point, it seems like they went too far the other way, getting rid of the home run guys who struck out a little bit too much, and then they couldn't get offense for a couple of years. You were kind of, seeing the walls shrink in a little bit with how old this veteran pitching staff is, and who knows how many kicks at it you have with guys like Chris Bassett and certainly with Max Scherzer. So I think there's been a lot of tweaks to their process. We heard a lot about the analytics parts of the decisions in 2020. When they went out to the Minnesota Twins. So they have changed those processes as well. They've, David Popkins, a lot of the hitters talk about how he helped them go from, hey, don't swing at bad pitches to, hey, swing at the stuff you can really do damage on. And this is what that looks like. Pete Walker, this fan base knows really well. He's been here forever and is right there with John Schneider making a lot of those bullpen decisions and things like that. So look, you don't get to the World Series by accident. You don't get to the World Series with guys who don't know baseball at the helm. I imagine it's unbelievably cool for John Schneider, who grew up literally with a Don Mattingly poster on his wall, was his favorite player, to get to do this with them, to get to share it with the front office and the analytics staff and the training staff. Honestly, it was one of the coolest things of the celebration after is you see all of those people from the different pockets of support staff down to the social media team all getting involved in it. So real takes a village kind of thing there. Happy for them today, but ready to nitpick all their decisions in game one if I don't like their reliever moves.
Oh, thankfully, it didn't end with people thinking about the call in Game 5 and what could have happened, because it's a very different ending. And Blake, I really do appreciate all of your special insight. I look forward to talking to you ahead of the World Series, if that's okay. I'm booking you now. All right.
That'd be great.
All
Thanks
right,
for
we have
having
a
me
good
on.
show today. Looking forward to that. Blake Murphy on Sportsnet. He's the host of Jays Talk Plus as well, the podcast, and kind enough to join us on many mornings. Here it is again from another angle, the home run that sent the team there.